Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, the DLC that just hit Kingdom Hearts 3 on January 23rd, 2020. It's been almost a year since we shared our initial Kingdom Hearts 3 thoughts video, and as a little bit of a callback to that, I was disappointed. It wasn't that it was a bad game, but it certainly didn't meet expectations. But now we have what I would consider the complete version of Kingdom Hearts 3, similar to what a final mix would be for the previous entries in the franchise. So I now have my full thoughts on it, unless they decide for some reason to release more DLC, but they said this would be the first and last one they had planned. Now I will say, I don't feel like I can talk about Remind spoiler-free outside of maybe saying a sentence or two. This video will 100% have spoilers, so if you have not played Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind and intend to play it, and would like to stay in the dark about the story behind it, the encounters you'll see, anything you didn't see in the trailers, then turn the video off now. If you're here to just talk about it, spoilerific, go to the comment section and reply to the video after you hear my thoughts. So Remind is broken up into 3 separate episodes that we will talk about sequentially. The first one is called Remind, and it is a direct sequel to the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 after Sora decides he's going to find Kairi's heart. It takes you through his adventure, but it ends up being about 3 hours of what really feels like wasted potential and sadly wasted time, at least in my opinion. Basically, Sora needs to relive the final events and try to change it in such a way that Kairi comes out with her heart. Now, that just means that outside of 30 minutes of cutscenes followed by replaying the final world of Kingdom Hearts 3, there's a lot to be desired here. It's so many recycled and reused cutscenes and battles that, as much as it's nice to get to play as a different character during some of these sequences, it just doesn't feel good. It feels lazy to me almost, that they didn't just decide to not make us actually play through the final world. It took me like an hour and a half to just replay through the final world and all the final boss fights again, with a few extra scenes sprinkled in to remind you that you are indeed playing a DLC and not just the end of the game again. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some boss fights here that revisiting them with the other Keyblade wielders does open up some perspectives. If you have like a level 99 Sora and you're just wrecking through the things, it definitely loses some of its luster, and I would highly recommend anytime you're given the opportunity to play as a different character, to take it only for a little bit of added challenge, especially on the Proud and Critical difficulty. But if you breeze through the end of Kingdom Hearts 3 initially, this will only pose a slightly more difficult challenge than that did. And Remind right here actually already makes me wish that I had played through the game on Critical. So when I made the original video, Critical mode wasn't out yet. They added it, they added abilities to turn off attractions, they further enforced that in the update where Remind came out, where you can now start the game with things like attractions turned off, but I wasn't able to turn them off on my existing playthrough, which, I just really want those things gone. So I might replay through again on Critical, and this entire review is coming from someone who has done it on the Proud difficulty, so shame me if you will, but I feel like it gave me some pretty good perspective on how these fights will function for at least something closer to the average Kingdom Hearts player. That being said, the first 3 to 3.5 hours of this DLC just didn't do it for me. There's a little bit of satisfaction seeing some of the new scenes, but it just didn't do it for me. It was just more of it just kind of reminded me why I was so lukewarm about Kingdom Hearts 3's initial release, and reliving through that doesn't help. Fortunately, things get a little bit brighter after you actually finish Remind. Episode number 2 that unlocks is called Limit Cut, and this is clearly designed for the hardcore Kingdom Hearts vets looking for challenging endgame or post-game. This is something that Kingdom Hearts we kind of don't acknowledge pre-final mix. It doesn't usually have great post-game, but the final mixes, and in this case Remind, always have some crazy memorable encounters, and this continues that trend. Limit Cut essentially replicates the same idea that Kingdom Hearts 2 did in their final mix, with data battles of a lot of the bosses you fought, and some characters that you didn't necessarily fight as bosses, but they've added as bosses altogether. And this is on par with what you'd expect from a Kingdom Hearts game. This is the tippy top gameplay extravaganza that makes you appreciate Kingdom Hearts 3 for what it is if you play through on the higher difficulties, if you play through with things like attractions off. This feels like a solid test of skill with some great and frustrating encounters at the same time. I was pretty giddy when I was playing through it, and I had a great time dissecting each fight, going through all of the data battles, yelling at my screen whenever they killed me, and man, this is what the hardcore Kingdom Hearts vets will enjoy, at least from a combat perspective. Limit Cut does technically continue the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 a year after the events of Kingdom Hearts 3, where Sora's been missing for all that time, and this is where you will see your Final Fantasy characters finally make their cameo. But other than that, it doesn't really offer much of anything. It just is pushing the story ahead, but not necessarily in an exciting or engaging way. It's just nice to know that they're trying, you know, but it doesn't amount to much. Now, after you get through all the data battles here, you will come to the final portion of Remind, and that is Secret Episode. Now, just as a spoiler, again, I gave you the warning at the beginning, but you're supposed to lose Secret Episode to get the canonical ending of Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. And I was already upset when I got through the Remind portion of the DLC. This, oh man, I had brought this up a year ago, and I guess I have to bring it up again. I don't really care for the shoehorning of Versus 13 into my Kingdom Hearts franchise. Yozora was a big problem for me a year ago, and Yozora is the core aspect of Secret Episode. Now, I will say this. Yozora is the boss fight here. He's the final boss fight of all of Kingdom Hearts 3, and it is a spectacular encounter. I'm still working on it on the Proud difficulty. I've made it over halfway through the fight. But one little slip up, one little mistake, not enough items, whatever it is that's going to get you here, you got to be prepared. It's definitely a grueling encounter that takes me back to the young 13-year-old me attempting Lingering Will back in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix when I imported it as a kid. And that's a great feeling. But the actual story implications frustrate me. Not because they're telling a story I don't like or they're telling a story I don't want to see, but because it just feels like Nomura wants Noctis back. I don't know how else to put it. It's just how it feels to me. Essentially, and again, spoiler, Yozura's in the back of the car from the first Versus 13 trailer. So basically, he is the original Noctis. That's the idea. Which I don't want to get into the whole discussion about Yozora's name and all that stuff. I did it a year ago. I just don't want to do it. But I don't care. It feels so unnecessary to move this in this direction. And it just makes me think that Kingdom Hearts 4 is literally just going to be Versus 13. Now, does that mean it's going to be bad? No. You know, I think a lot of us really wanted to see Versus 13 pan out just for the sake of, you know, seeing it come out as it was. And a lot of us are still at least curious, even if we've kind of moved past it after the 10-year gap of never seeing Versus 13, now longer at this point. But it just feels spiteful that it's in here, and it's not a good feeling. I don't know. I'm just too sentimental about it, I guess. I'm just a little too emotional about it. But at the very least, it's a crazy good boss fight. I just don't care for the story aspects of it. And that's all there is to really say about Remind. There are other things. The Oathkeeper Keyblade was added for collecting all the lucky emblems. They added the Oblivion Keyblade to Critical Mode. I think you just need to beat Critical Mode, if I'm remembering correctly. But I still end up using the Ultima and occasionally swapping to the Oathkeeper throughout most of the encounters. But it didn't, like, feel new or fancy or fun. I would really have to start a whole nother playthrough in order to get some of those emotions out, the ability to turn things on and off on any difficulty. It's just, it feels like it's all half thought of. And $30? I'm not convinced. I wouldn't normally spend $30 on something like this. It's cool. It's got a... You know what, though? I will say this. Compared to rebuying the whole game, like I've had to historically with Kingdom Hearts, you know, I'll take a $30 DLC over that. But in terms of the actual value, I'm not sold. I would have paid maybe $15, $20 for this, like if given like a price range to choose from after seeing the whole thing. But $30, man, for how disappointing the story is, you know, you can make some great boss fights, but you know, that's not worth it to me. I suppose. I guess I'm kind of past that age of being okay with things like this, but I don't know. It's now I'm getting off the rails. I should just end the video. Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind, if you are a diehard vet looking for some hardcore boss battles on Proud and Critical, you'll enjoy this. If you're looking for a casual gameplay experience, play it on beginner. And if you're just looking to expand the story, I think it's a little bit there, but you gotta ways to wait. We know there's the new mobile game coming out. We know they're working on other titles. They have several development teams working on more Kingdom Hearts titles, and we can only hope that the future's brighter than Kingdom Hearts 3 was, because a year later and still lukewarm. It's okay. It's not like it's a bad game, but it could have been so much more. And I hope the future of the franchise can rebound from this, at least in the hardcore Kingdom Hearts fans' eyes. But anyway, let me know what you thought about Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind. If you finished this video, you probably bought it, played it, are fighting Yozora as we speak, and I wish you the best of luck with that, especially those of you attempting on Critical. And if you're doing Critical Level 1, you're a monster. Best of luck to you on that one. But thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, take care.